Hi everyone, so today I want to do a video on, now this is one of the videos I've been wanting to do for a while now, on herbs and flowers. Now on the market there's lots of, like, especially the Woodlands range and naturals. There's a lot of natural products out there and they seem to be the most popular with pet owners. I know that I prefer to give my rabbit and gerbils and my pets things that are natural and not full of additives and colourings and things like that. So I thought I'd talk about foraging. You know, not your pet, you know. You can go out and forage a lot of stuff for your pet just in your own back garden. So all this was collected just from my garden. Now there's only 2 items here that I've grewn myself, so that would be the lavender and the marigold. The rest is just growing on its own, so they're weeds. So I thought I'd go through the weeds that I've picked here today, and I might do future videos on different weeds and plants, but like I said, this literally took me 3 minutes to go into the garden, find some weeds and pick them. So yeah, the first one I'm going to talk about is dandelions. Now lots of people will probably already feed this to the rabbits and guinea pigs, but I know a lot of owners who own rabbits and guinea pigs and hamsters and things, and they will go and pick this for the rabbits and the guinea pigs, but they won't actually give it to the hamster. Now this is perfect for your hamsters, especially love dandelion. I've tried my gerbils and they quite like it. Now what I've done here is I've actually dug the plant up and the root, sorry. Now all you need to do when you're preparing these is give them a quick wash and pick off any damaged leaves. So if we look at, like, where is it? There was one there. If we look at this leaf here, it's been eaten by probably a snail or a slug or something, so you just want to pick that off and you want to check all of the leaves and make sure that they're all free of bugs, eggs, insect eggs and things like that. Now another tip when you're washing it, get the thick of it off all the soil, but I always, this here would be really hard to get off. The only way I'd get it off is to sort of like cut it off. Now for your animal to, if they eat a bit of that mud or soil, it's totally fine for them. It's actually full of minerals, and in small quantities can be really good for them. Now dandelion is a natural, it will naturally loosen up the bowels. In large quantities it can cause diarrhoea, but for my dwarf rabbit I'll happily give her this big bunch and that's totally fine. Now if you're feeding dandelion, another thing I recommend is feeding plantain. Now I only had very small amounts in the garden. Now you got the broadleaf and the thinner leaf, and they're both the same. They both hold the same properties. Now this is the opposite to dandelion. If you've got an animal that has diarrhoea, this is a good thing to give them. It naturally bungs them up. So when you're feeding dandelion, it's good to feed plantain as well, all at once. Now plantain root and the flower, and the same with the dandelion, the flower as well is perfectly fine, and you'll find that guinea pigs especially love the flowers off dandelions. So the last weed I'm going to talk about today is clovers. Now the clover flower is perfectly safe to feed to your small animal, and rabbits really love this. Now there's a bit of grass in here, but I'm trying to find, there we go, there's a clover. Now as they grow bigger they'll get this sort of pale white band on them, and when they're smaller, like the majority of this, they won't have the band, but clover's easily distinguished. You'll find clover in fields, so if you go into fields and pick clover and things. And again, clover is really good for a nice shiny coat on your pet. So clover is okay to feed. Now all these are okay to feed, all these weeds are okay to feed every day. Now these two are, this is lavender. Now you might not realise that lavender is safe to feed to your small pet. Lavender is obviously really strong, so you know, you could just pick a little leaf off and offer it to your pet and see if they like it. Lavender, I find, is hit or miss. They either really love it or they really hate it. So again, it's worth trying your pet. I find that smaller rodents prefer lavender more than guinea pigs and rabbits do. So yeah, the lavender flower is also fine. A little word of warning: when you feed them flowers, they tend to be full of those little black bugs, and I forgot what they're called, but they tend to sort of hide in the middle of your flower. So make sure you give them a really good rinse. However, don't worry too much if your animal eats a flower and then you notice as they're eating it there's bugs on it. It's not going to hurt them at all. The only thing about the little bugs is they might get into your bedding and live in the cage, and you don't want that. So make sure you give them a really good rinse, just with plain water. You don't know nothing else in there. Now this is a marigold, and again this is perfectly safe to feed to your small pet. And I've found that what I've found with rabbits, mainly rabbits, is that they prefer flowers in the dry form. So when you go get the boredom breakers, the Woodlands range, they tend to prefer the dried petals as opposed to the fresh petals. Now, with fresh flowers, I would suggest feeding these only 3 times a week to your rabbit, because rabbits are prone to upset stomachs with large quantities of fresh food. I would only feed flowers a few times a week. Now, what I've found with smaller animals, especially hamsters, they tend to really like fresh flowers. Now what you can do is just split the flower in the middle, and then you'll find you'll have these individual petals. So what you can then do is sprinkle that over the hair. Now this is brilliant for fussy eaters. You know, my rabbit, especially Bambi, she's very fussy when it comes to hair. So I tend to break it up like this and sprinkle that in her hair. And it's fine if the flower goes dry in her hair or has sat there a few days, that's perfectly fine, it won't affect them. So yeah, from this one little flower, you'll see that you get a lot of petals in it. So something like this would last you ages. And again, you can dry these out yourself, so you could pick these leaves and let them sit out on a bit of kitchen roll in the sun. And you could let them sit out for a few days and they'll go pretty dry, and then you could try them with your pet again. Sometimes it's just the texture they don't like. Now one thing I will say about weeds and flowers is make sure you don't pick them somewhere that is sprayed with pesticides or weed killers. Now I know my local council especially will go and they will spray all the sides of roads and paths and things, so you might be picking plants somewhere and you think it's perfectly fine, but then, you know, you might end up with a very sick animal because you've fed it this sort of these weeds that are full of insecticides or weed killer. What I would suggest is picking them from somewhere that you know hasn't been treated. So you could go to someone's allotment, a friend's garden, or you could even grow them yourself. You can buy these weed packs on a lot of tortoise websites and on eBay, and you just put them in a planter and let them grow. Now what I find is a lot of people say, oh, I can't grow dandelion. I've tried really hard, and the trouble is they've looked after it too well. Weeds thrive on being really dry and then being really wet, so a sudden downpour, and you'll notice that in your own garden. Always wash them thoroughly and do further research into what weeds are best for your animal. Now, with rabbits, they've got very sensitive stomachs, as I said, and you don't want to give them too much fresh food, whereas guinea pigs, you know, I would happily give all this to one guinea pig, because guinea pigs need a really high percentage of vitamin C given to them because they can't make their own, so they need a lot of fresh food daily. So go online and have a quick search what is safe for your specific animal. Now I found a really good website and I'm going to put it in the link down below. Now it's aimed at rabbits, and what it is, it has a full list of safe fruit, vegetables and plants and flowers. So what I'm going to do is I'll link that below and you can have a look through that. Now even though it's aimed at rabbits, everything you find on there should be okay for your birds, hamsters, gerbils, rats, chinchillas, dagoos, etc. So go on there and have a look what's safe. So yeah, that's just a little bit about these specific weeds and what you'll find in your garden. With the flowers, the only other thing I would suggest is make sure they haven't been given plant feed. Now I know my nana, for example, she will go with Baby Bio and give it to all her plants. Now you just want to make sure that wherever you're picking your flowers from doesn't have Baby Bio in. Now carnations, quickly before I go, carnations are perfectly fine to feed to your small pet. However, the ones you're buying in supermarkets will have been treated with weed and feed type stuff, so you don't want to be given anything that any flowers that you've bought or you've been given from a bunch of flowers from the supermarket. So I would say the best place to go is a woodland area, or like a wildlife reserve, because all of that is untreated in there. So as long as they don't have signs up saying don't pick the wildflowers or things like that, it's perfectly safe to go in and pick weed yourself. So yeah, that's just a bit about weeds today, and I feel like I've talked for ages about nothing, but hopefully it makes sense. So yeah, keep an eye out. I'll put one up on vegetables and flowers in the near future. Flowers, vegetables and fruit in the near future. So thanks for watching. Bye.